Hi, I'm Brian DeRubertis. I'm a vascular surgeon in New York at Weill Cornell Medical Center. The landscape, I would say, for BTK disease, in terms of our treatment options, really hasn't changed a lot in the past 15, even 20 years, until some of the investments that many of the companies are making in the past few years. That's largely as a result of the LIFE-BTK trial, which was a successful trial looking at bioresorbable scaffolds that has shown efficacy of this device over PTA. That was really the first trial that was successful in the below knee space. There's actually a lot of reasons why a bioresorbable scaffold fits very well with BTK disease and our patient population. In general, in the last 10 years or so, we've really moved away from leaving permanent implants both above the knee and below the knee as well. At least in the US, we don't have any on-label devices, stent-type devices for the BTK space until the Esprit scaffold was approved. Really below the knee and the tibial vessels, we primarily use angioplasty as well as other plaque-modifying devices. And in geographies where they're available, DCBs. At Charing Cross, we heard the results of the RIVA trial with a motive scaffold, and that's very exciting because it again was another positive trial. Further data is probably going to come out from that trial in upcoming meetings, but at least in terms of the primary efficacy endpoint, they showed about a 20 or 22% difference between the scaffold and PTA, which is really another resounding success. And so this now means that there's 2 below-knee trials that have been successful at meeting their primary endpoint. It shows that the class of devices is something to sort of look forward to seeing how they can be treated in patients. And I think it's going to bring further investment in the below-knee space, both in terms of additional scaffolds, as well as probably some other therapies like DCBs. The trial was, as I mentioned, was followed out to 1 year as the primary efficacy endpoint, but we also followed with imaging cohorts out to 2 years and 3 years. So we basically follow these patients out 3 years for the imaging components and 5 years for mortality statistics and that sort of thing. So the 5-year accrual is still ongoing, but we now reported the 1, 2, and 3-year data. At 1 year, we saw about a 30 percentage point difference in primary patency, the composite efficacy endpoint of primary patency and limb salvage between the Esprit scaffold and PTA. So about a 30 percentage point difference, very highly statistically significant. When we look at 2 years, we saw very little loss of patency between the 1 year and 2 year time points. And at 3 years, same thing. So at 3 years, we had about a 25% difference between these two arms. Currently, Riva Medical is undergoing the LIFE-BTK study. And this is once again another bioresorbable scaffold made of PLLA with some device properties that make it a little different than the other scaffolds in terms of its flexibility and its ability to navigate perhaps around some tortuous areas. So this is another limus-based therapy, bioresorbable limus-based therapy that is currently under investigation in a randomized controlled clinical trial. Outside the scaffold area, there's been a number of devices that have been iterated upon in the IVL space, and I think that investment's going to continue. Interventionalists worldwide have recognized that IVL or intravascular lithotripsy, has the potential to modify calcified disease and plaque burden in a way that is perhaps a little more straightforward or safer or simpler than atherectomy, which is the other tool we use quite a bit in the above and below knee space. And so I think the investment that's going on in IVL devices and iterating the type of power delivered to the plaque, that's another area that I think there's a lot of ongoing investment and excitement about. And then there's a number of DCB trials that have failed in prior years. And I'd say that the reason for that is not clear why these trials have failed. It could be that paclitaxel, which is the drug that has been used in all these other trials, is just simply not the right drug for the below knee space. It's possible that limus-based devices may offer some more advantages. And so when you compare paclitaxel to limus, there are some properties of limus that might make it more advantageous below the knee. I wouldn't write paclitaxel off as an anti-restenotic drug for the lower leg. There's been a lot of learnings from the failed trials in the past, as well as the successful trials such as LIFE-BTK and the MOTIVE trial. And so I think with some of the learnings from those trials, some of the lessons we gleaned out of conducting those trials and orchestrating those trials, and some of what we've devised in terms of composite endpoints could help advise our ongoing DCB trials in a way that will allow even a paclitaxel trial to be successful below the knee. So I think there's a significant reason to be optimistic about not only DCBs, both limus and paclitaxel DCBs, but also some of these other technologies that we're seeing developed for the below knee space.